welcome back to the channel. I wasn't actually going to do a video this week because I'm actually on holiday, but that doesn't stop me producing top tier content for all of you guys. You're welcome, you're welcome. I thought I'd do a quick video about the whole Yungblud situation because there's been quite a lot of talk about this over the last week. He was part of a tribute to Ozzy on MTV along with the likes of Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, Nuno Bettencourt, and Justin Hawkins, or actually more specifically Dan Hawkins, made a Instagram post basically calling him a poser. And I don't know, I just thought I wanted to do a video on this because I can kind of see both sides of the story on this one, and I'm kind of intrigued to hear what you guys think of this one as well. Now, first of all, let's give some credit where it's due. Yungblud, what's his actual name? Dominic Richard Harrison is his real name. Now, he performed at the Ozzy Sabbath, farewell show back in July. The Back to the Beginning show, which was phenomenal. I absolutely loved every second of watching that. I watched the live stream at home and I absolutely had a blast watching it. He was definitely the one artist at that show where most people would have been saying, who? Why? And I was one of them. Now, he's one of those, Yungblud is one of those names that I've known about for years, but I've never actually really, it's just kind of just one of those artists who just seems to be there. Now, I will say, his performance at the show was one of the highlights. Yeah, I have to give him absolute credit for that. He did a cover of the classic Sabbath song Changes, and he had the audience eating out of his hand. It was insanely good. I think a couple of people almost compared it to Freddie Mercury at Live Aid. It was genuinely a fantastic performance. He's clearly a very talented performer. He clearly knows what he's doing. He's clearly very hard-working, but there's also other sides to it as well. I think he came up in the more sort of drama school side of things. So I think there's a lot of people giving him the poser tag. Is this somebody who is just taking on a role? We'll get into that in a bit. I think what irks quite a lot of people, and I can see where they're coming from with this one to an extent as well. Metal and hard rock, more than any other genre, with the exception of maybe hip-hop, certainly early hip-hop anyway, integrity and paying your dues is a huge part of what makes you being taken seriously in these genres. Now, as I said, he came up through the drama school side of things. I think there was even some performances of him when he was performing for like the Disney Channel, and he was also an actor as well. So he was in the Emmerdale and the Lodge. I don't even know what the Lodge is. Oh, it's a Disney show. There you go. There, yeah, that makes sense. I think now would be as good a time as any to go and have a look at Dan Hawkins of The Darkness. He put an Instagram post out about this, with the headline being "What a bunch of bellends," and yeah, in his description of it, another nail in the coffin of rock and roll, cynical, nauseating, and more importantly, shit. Makes me sick how people jump on this shit to further their own careers. He's chosen this particular screenshot here with Ariana Grande. I did see the footage, and she's just, there is something kind of nauseating about seeing people who would never have anything to do with this form of music suddenly getting on board. It is kind of annoying. Like I said, I can kind of see both sides. Yungblud is somebody who's been trying to get further in the industry for a very long time. I remember a couple of years ago, he did a fantastic cover of The Verve's Bittersweet Symphony, which was actually really solid. But he's the thing is with metal and hard rock, it's something about you have to put the time in. You don't just jump into it. You don't just, it's like that person at work who just suddenly turns up one day with a t-shirt on, with a band t-shirt, and claims they're metal now or whatever. Of course, they have every right to do with it, but let's be honest, we do kind of judge them. It's like, no, you're not. I think it's important to point out as well, if you actually go and listen to his music, it is not in any way hard rock or metal. Not at all. Not one single bit. So is this just somebody playing a role? And should we be that bothered about it? Now, I think that Dan Hawkins then got a ton of negative feedback for his comments, which again, I can also understand, because there is that element of the old man yelling at the cloud kind of thing. It's like, well, no, that's not what this is about. You know, things were better back in my day, and that's not what this is about. So I think there were a lot of people coming to Yungblud's defence, which I can completely understand. As I've stated a few times already, he did a fantastic performance. It's worth pointing out as well that the actual performance at was it VMAs or MTV? I'm not sure. It was actually a really solid performance. I mean, Nuno Bettencourt, one of the greatest guitar players ever. Steven Tyler did a really great job after all the injuries that he's had with his vocal cords. Joe Perry, of course, fantastic. It was a genuinely good performance. It was genuinely a good tribute. But again, I can kind of see where both of them are coming from. Justin Hawkins leapt to his brother's defence and actually made a video about it, I watched that video, which is kind of what inspired me to make my video. There's footage of Yungblud on the red carpet or whatever, you know, the photo opportunity stuff, where he's blatantly doing the Jim Morrison pose. And is he now just playing a rock star? Has he now found his niche? Has he found his audience, and now he's just playing to that? There's no denying that a lot of people at that Back to the Beginning show were, genuinely impressed with what he did. I certainly was. I thought it was great. Justin Hawkins did make a very funny video there where he was saying it was almost like when you used to see David Hasselhoff doing his sort of metal hard rock period. It's an actor playing a part. Like I said, integrity and paying your dues is a huge part of this sort of style of music. But again, is this just jealousy? Is this older people looking at a clearly talented younger person who's coming in and, doing their thing? Are they bringing a younger audience to heavier music again? For example, actually on the video itself of the tribute medley on the MTV YouTube channel, which has got 3.2 million views. There's a lot of comments for, it's good to see actual real music. This is probably the first time somebody, a lot of these kids have actually seen somebody perform a live solo. So is it bringing real musicianship? Is this putting real musicianship in front of people again? Is it, something that's much lost? God damn, I sound old. Because there's a lot of people who are saying that he's jumping on the bandwagon, but then again, he is a friend of the family. The Osbournes, that is not my family. I don't know him. He got on really well with Ozzy. The family were the ones who wanted him to perform at Back to the Beginning. They were the ones that asked him, and I presume that they also they were very happy for him to take part in this, as were the people who were very impressed with his performance there. Is he playing a role? Is he playing a role? Is he legit? Just a quote here from Justin's video. I suppose one of the things that irks musicians of a certain age is to watch Ozzy invent heavy metal, then turn into this household name with the television series and its decades of being brilliant, and then you kind of think, what the fuck does all of those decades of having this incredible legacy got to do with Yungblud? I feel like what irks musicians of a certain age is the fact that Yungblud seems to have positioned himself as a natural heir to the Ozzy legacy, having nothing to do with the really important stuff. Yeah, this is where I see both sides of it. You have somebody who's blatantly had nothing to do with the rock scene or the hard, the metal scene certainly, and he's just kind of stepped into the role. I'm not taking anything away from his talent. Nothing. Here we go. So it's doing all the metal poses. Is there one in there? I don't know. See, yeah, the Jim Morrison pose. The Jim Morrison pose there, you see. I mean, the guy's certainly got charisma. That's for damn sure. He's certainly got star quality. There's no denying that. And he's definitely paid his dues in his own way in what he does. He's certainly a hard worker. But again, is it just like, are you taking on this metal hard rock persona now because that's where the audience is? I mean, having said that, I think he is somebody who is genuinely interested in lots of different forms of music. So, You know, again, to quote more of the Justin video, it's like you've watched a movie about rock and metal. It's like what a male stripper would do. It doesn't ring authentic. It's rock and roll, but not as we know it. It kind of has that Disney veneer over the top of it, like it's rock and roll seen through an Instagram filter of some sort. That's what makes it galling to the people who have tweeted their disdain. It's actually like watching David Hasselhoff. Do not diss the Hoff. I just mean that it's like rock and roll done by somebody who perhaps was famous for driving a talking car and felt reassured by wearing little red shorts and looking after you at the beach. It's like a television personality doing rock and roll. See, again, I definitely see both sides. I gotta admit, I'm kind of veering more to what's Justin saying. You know what I mean? Is it just somebody who has found their niche, they found their audience and they're just kind of going along with it? Or is it somebody who is genuinely talented, genuinely likes his sort of music, has been given an opportunity to do it, has the backing of the family? A lot of the musicians that he's been jamming with have been singing his praises as well. So, you know, he's not an untalented guy. He's not an untalented guy. But is he metal? Is he hard rock? No, he's not. And maybe, I don't know. Is this just old man yelling at cloud? I'm not against him though. You know, I don't know. He's like I said. He's certainly got some charisma, and he's bringing hard rock and metal into the public conscious again. So is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Is that bringing lots of posers in, or, you know, all of us need those gateways. All of us need those people that bring us in to the harder stuff. You know what I mean? We all started somewhere. You know, is this what's going to keep this sort of music alive, or is it a complete disrespect to everything that this music stands for? I kind of see both sides. I really do. I suppose I'm more interested to see where he goes from here, because, as I said, his music up to this point is not. It's just not heavy in any kind of way. I've got no problem with him paying respects to Ozzy. Like I said, he's a friend of the family. Everyone was very impressed with what he did. But there's a huge difference between paying tribute and thinking that you are the thing that you're paying tribute to. And I think that's where things are going to be. That's where things are going to be interesting. I think if it's purely just paying tribute to the guy, then I've got no issue with it. I think it's actually, you know, fair enough to him. But like I said, I'm actually more intrigued to see what his next steps are. Whether now he's going to start donning a more hard rock sort of side of things and going with that. Because, as I said, metal and hard rock, it's all about paying your dues and it's all about standing your ground. And, you know, the bands that we still love from years ago are the ones that stuck to their story through thick and thin. You know what I mean? It's easy to jump on bandwagons. It's easy to jump from this to that when this is, you know, when this is popular and that's not so popular. We all know the bands that have stuck to their story, and they're the ones that we still love because they're true to who they are. We also all know the bands that have jumped bandwagons and pretty much fell by the wayside because of it. Not all of them, some of them, you know, there's also a difference between experimentation and bandwagon jumping. Is that a thing? Ultimately, I think at this point you've got somebody who's just paying respects and, you know, doing his thing. But like I said, I'm very intrigued to see what his next move is going to be and whether he's going to now cater towards that sort of more hard rock audience. And is he wrong for doing that? I don't know. Just asking questions to try and get views. Anyway, just putting some thoughts out there. Leave your comments. I'm very intrigued to see what you guys all have to say about this one. And is this sort of content that you guys would want more of? Like, you know, me commenting on these sorts of type things? I'm just trying to think of different stuff. Especially as the weather is really starting to get bad again now. I was actually going to go out and do a video up on the hills like I normally do. The weather is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. We're hitting that time of the year, so, you know, something where I actually get to stay in and you know, being the somewhat warm would be kind of nice. Let me know. Yeah, we'll see how this one goes, but I'll catch you on the next one, whatever that will be. I don't know what I'm doing from one day to the next. I don't know what I'm doing in a second. I have no idea. Well, I'll be editing this, but yeah. I'll see you on the next one. Bye. I've said enough. I've said too much. I've said too little. I've said fuck all worth listening to, probably. Bye.